I'm just playing with my lights. Hello, welcome. I'm just playing with my lights. Hold on. I think that's good enough. Hello, we'll get started in just a few minutes, see if anyone else pops in. But thank you for joining. Happy Friday. Hey guys, thank you for joining. Hi.
Every day it is time for us to...
That's Kamala. She gave a brilliant quote recently. Here, what is it?
As needed.
At what point does the administration say, you know what, this strategy isn't working, we're going to change strategies? 6 former administration officials last week wrote that open letter urging the administration to change course, to change strategy. Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day. Every day it is time for us to agree that there are things and tools that are available to us to slow this thing down.
Brilliant. Hey guys, thank you for joining. Hi Glenn, how are you? Hello everyone. Happy Friday. I actually have I brought a bit of a cocktail tonight and then I put it in my skull cup. So cheers. Yeah, today, so I'm in Virginia today, and we had like snow and sleet last night, but today it was fine. The roads were fine. It was just very, very cold out, and I'm not really used to that. Doing good. It is the freezing ice storm now in Wilmington, North Carolina. Yeah, we had, good evening, Sarah. I have a glass of rosé brut. Ooh, that sounds really fancy. I had to listen to that Kamala clip again. I wanted to transcribe that out. On my TikTok, I transcribed out, look how long this is. None of this makes any sense. This was Biden's answer to a question. Do you want to hear it, actually? Good. I don't even need you to answer. I'm going to read it to you. So this was the disastrous Joe Biden press conference that he gave. Was such a disaster that they basically had to send everyone on a crisis avert system afterwards. So Kamala Harris was doing interviews, Jen Psaki was doing interviews, and those were even more disastrous. And we'll get into that if you want to in a few minutes too. But the whole thing was just bad. But here, so I made a video, and and it took me so much time, but I transcribed out everything that Joe Biden said. I'll read it for you. So it was during the press conference. I believe, was that the how many press conferences has he given? I don't think he's given that many, or that's the only one. So the question asked of Joe Biden was, have school reopenings and closures? So this is a member of the press asking Joe Biden a question. And they said, have school reopenings and closures become a potent midterm issue for Republicans to win back the suburbs? And this is how Joe Biden answered. He said, oh, I think it could be on, and I hope in God that look, maybe I'm kidding myself, but as time goes on, the voter who is just trying to figure out, as I said, how to take care of their family and put 3 squares on the table, stay safe, and be able to pay their mortgage, rent, etc., is becoming much more informed. The motives of some of the political players and some of the political parties, and I think that there are not going to be susceptible to believing some of the outlandish things that may have been said and continue to be said. You know, every president, not necessarily the first 12 months, but every president, the first couple of years, last presidents, at least 4 of them, more have had polling numbers that are 44% favorable. So this idea that, but you all, not you all, but now it is, but Biden out at one poll showed him at 33%. The average is 46, 44, 45%. One poll at 49%. I mean, this idea that the American public are trying to sift through their way through what's real and what's fake, and I don't think, I've never seen a time when the political coverage choice, and that's where I cut it off. It was too hard from there. But that is a direct transcript from Biden's presser the other day. Hello, everybody. I'm just putting on Twitter that I'm here. I've been really bad about announcing these. It's 7 minutes in. I'll go ahead and get started then. So, Gabby Petito, there's been an update in her case. I'm not really surprised by this, but I think hopefully it gives people some closure. Give me one second. Yeah, Glenn, are you guys having a lot of ice? Copy. Biden called the question about waiting on Putin to make the first move stupid. I saw that. He basically yelled at the reporter. Okay. Update in the Gabby Petito case. Okay, this was really sad, and, from the very beginning, we basically knew what happened. We knew who did it. And when Brian Laundrie, that was her boyfriend, who was the lead suspect in the case, when he was found with a gunshot wound, it was pretty clear, I think, to most people what happened. I don't think it's that big of a surprise, but it's still very different when you actually hear it from the person. So Brian Laundrie had a notebook, and there were things written in that notebook. And now I believe the case is to rest. And here's the update right here. So we'll talk about Brian Laundrie for a few minutes. And then it's actually good news. I think the entire regime, the entire narrative, it is completely failing. We'll look at a few things that are going on and a few reasons as to why I think this is happening. But the entire narrative is collapsing. But first, let's look at Gabby Petito. Bido is not fully aware of the situation that he is in. No, he's not. All right, so Brian Laundrie. So if you're aware, when he was found, he was obviously passed away when he was found, and then there was a notebook that was found with him. So police confiscated the notebook, or FBI, I think the FBI was on it. Yes, FBI confiscated the notebook, but we didn't know exactly what it was in it. Well, now it has been confirmed what was in this notebook. So it says, Brian Laundrie admitted he killed girlfriend Gabby Petito in a notebook entry he wrote shortly before he took his own life, the FBI revealed Friday in its final report on the case. Laundrie also sent text messages between his and Petito's cell phone in the days after Petito was strangled to death last summer in an attempt to deceive law enforcement by giving the impression Miss Petito was still alive. And this is according to the Denver FBI. All logical investigative steps have been concluded in the case. The investigation did not identify any other individuals that Brian Laundrie is directly involved in the tragic death of Gabby Petito. So again, I think we already knew this. We knew that he was responsible. They haven't released exactly what he said in the entry, but if you were to ask me, what I think that happened is they probably got in a fight. Things got very heated. Yeah, so Daniel said, saw that coming, it never added up. Exactly. I think all of us saw it coming. All of us really knew what was going on. Just to continue with what the FBI said before I get into my opinion. The investigation, we just said that the FBI's primary focus throughout the investigation was to bring justice to Gabby and her family. The public's role in helping us in the endeavor was invaluable as the investigation was covered throughout the media around the world. On behalf of the FBI, I want to express my deepest appreciation to the public for the thousands of tips that were provided during the investigation, and to our local, state, and federal law enforcement for their work throughout the investigation. So it was basically, I don't know if you remember, but it was internet people in the very beginning that helped to find Gabby's body. They were like bloggers. A lot of people were sharing tips and things on the internet and sort of putting things together and figuring things out. So they helped the FBI a lot. And it's really sad. I think we all pretty much knew what happened, but again, when you actually hear it from the person, it brings a new sense of closure. I don't know if we will ever know what exactly was written in the entry, but if you ask me what happened, I think that they probably got in a very heated argument and things got out of control, and he clearly has a lot of issues and things happened, and it happened and he didn't know what to do. So I think he probably panicked and just made all kinds of terrible decisions and ultimately ended his life. The whole thing is just really, really, really sad. And now Gabby is gone, but the case is now closed, they say, and that's it. I think he rage killed her and panicked. Kind of glad he's dead. Yeah, Daniel. I think that's exactly what it is. Oops. I think that's exactly what it is. I think it was a crime of passion, and that I don't even like calling it a crime of passion because that makes it sound kind of. But I think you're right. I think it was a rage-filled thing, and he panicked, and he, in my opinion, took the cowardly way out, didn't want to be held accountable or face what he did. So there you go. And I guess he confessed it in this notebook before he went away. And I guess the question now is, how much did his family know? Because we do know that he went back to Florida without Gabby. And that was red flag number one. Where the heck is Gabby? And you would think his family would ask that, even given, I believe he lived with, or she lived with him. Was it him and his sister? So the very first question should have been from his family, where the heck is Gabby? And when he couldn't answer that question, they should have notified authorities. So I think now moving forward in the case, it's going to be, how much did the family know? And just kind of let him go. So it's very sad, but that is the update. We talked about it a little bit, not too much. So just to close that story out. So next we can basically go to like how the regime is failing. Before we get into that, I want to let you, the way his family behaved was creepy all the way around. It really was, and it almost makes me think like this is total speculation, completely like speculation warning. This is completely speculation, but it almost makes me think that he confessed to them, maybe, I don't know, when he got home or to someone and they were like, just disappear. I don't know. But then I don't believe that, because if that was my child, I would call the police immediately, because I would actually fear that they would take their own. I would much rather my child be in jail or prison than not be here at all. So I don't know. It's just, maybe more will come out, maybe it won't. Chip off the block, yeah. But the family, regardless of what happened and what we can speculate behind the scenes, the family was super, just in my opinion, sus throughout the entire thing. And their silence was really sus. Like, everything was really sus. I would too. Daniel said I would turn my own child in. I would turn my own child in too. And who knows? Maybe he lied to them. Maybe he said she went off to be with someone else and she ran off and she didn't want me to tell her parents. Who knows? We don't know, but the whole thing is just, it's odd. And it was odd from the very beginning, and that's why I think this story took off to the extent that it did. Okay, let's talk about, now that we did that, instead they had him clam up and get a lawyer. Yeah. Very strange. And you know what? Sometimes, especially in the South, like, people will do, not just in the South, but people will do crazy things to protect their own. But I don't know. That's speculation. We don't know. But the thing is, they were so suspect during the whole thing. It's causing us to sit here and be like, well, what was going on? Why would they do this? What would motivate them to do this and not to be like completely transparent? Okay, let's talk about the failing regime now. Can we talk about how making fun of Biden may be elder abuse at this point? Yeah, you know what? I made this video where I was joking about, you know, what Biden was saying, and it actually got to the point where I was like, yeah, this might be just, at this point, this just doesn't feel right, because it feels like something is really going on with him. I don't know, like, it really feels like this is just getting ridiculous. Especially during that press conference, he was struggling. There were moments where, now looking back at it, the second time I watched this, I'm like, there are moments where it's almost like being drunk. If you're very drunk, there are moments where you're talking and you just forget what you're talking about, if you are that out of it. And that's what it was like watching him. Clearly, he's not drunk. He's just an older man who may or may not be declining in his mental health. But there were moments where it really did seem like he just forgot what he was talking about. But I think as a whole, you know, and you have to remember, this is the person that they decided to push out there. But as a whole, I think the entire narrative is collapsing. all around. So I don't have the clip on me right now, but the World Economic Forum. So you've heard a lot of people talk about like the Great Reset and the elites and this and that. Well, this came directly from the World Economic Forum, from publications that they put out. And I don't know if I subscribe to that entire idea, or whether you want to call it a conspiracy theory or not. But I have seen certain things that they said. You will own nothing and you will be happy in a few years. And they have publications that specifically state a great reset and things like that. So it makes you a little, you don't want to be you don't want to put your tinfoil hat on, but you do a little bit because of them, not because of you. And recently a woman was talking within the World Economic Forum. Let me see if I can actually pull it up for you. World. Hold on. I think it's on my liked. But before I play that, I can... So this recently happened on CNN. While I'm looking for that clip, I'll play you this. But it all basically goes together because it's all about a narrative that is completely and 100% failing. So this was on CNN recently, and this was this is Anderson Cooper.
A piece that you just wrote, essentially saying this is Joe Biden doing what Joe Biden does.
Yeah, well, I never imagined how quickly this would all unfold. The person they sold on the campaign.
So this is a former special assistant to President George Bush talking with Anderson Cooper. So I'll replay that for you. And the volume just turned off. Go back on. That is so weird. The volume just went off and it won't go back on. Hold on. Weird. Oh, there it is. Okay. There we go. Let's play it again.
A piece that you just wrote, essentially saying this is Joe Biden doing what Joe Biden does.
Yeah, well, I never imagined how quickly this would all unfold. The person they sold on the campaign, the nice old, moderate grandpa who just wanted to help everybody get along and compromise, is not what we got over the last year. He has no mandate really to do much of anything. It's amazing that he got a couple of things done when the mandate was really pretty clear. 50-50 Senate, a near 50-50 House, and a pretty close presidential election. The mandate was simply replace Donald Trump and don't do anything drastic or stupid. And everything about this agenda is extremely drastic. And he's been angrier than I think people expected. He's been more divisive. He's been more partisan. You look at the issues. We built 5 years of coverage on Trump out of Russia, COVID, and democracy. The president at his press conference invites Russia to invade the Ukraine. We got more deaths under Biden than Trump. And now we have the president and vice president and leading Democrats question the legitimacy of the 2022 election. Are we any better off on these three issues that we crucified Trump over? I think he has a lot of political problems, and an AP poll came out this morning. Only 28% of Americans want the sitting president to run for re-election, and fewer than half of Democrats. This is a disaster.
All right, that was CNN, Anderson Cooper, on Anderson Cooper. But that's what they're talking about on CNN. So that was someone that used to work for President Bush. And then also earlier today, Jen Psaki was on The View. And they asked her about people being really upset. Glenn said, I'm surprised that Biden's handlers didn't stop the press conference. I actually am too, but the thing is, it's so bad. So many people are criticizing him for not doing pressers that they had to. I don't really think they had a choice at this point. It's been a year into the presidency. So Jen Psaki was on The View today. But by the way, after this press conference, Kamala Harris and Jen Psaki basically had to go in crisis mode and damage control, and they went on all these shows, and to be honest, they made it even worse. For instance, Jen Psaki was on The View today, and she was and they brought up, this is what you have to understand about Biden. Republicans love the fact that nothing with him is being able to get passed through the Senate, but Democrats that voted for him are like, what the heck? You made all these promises and none of your legislation is getting passed. And so what was brought up to Jen, so he's getting it from both sides, basically. He sucks for Republicans and he sucks for Democrats. And with the argument that guy was just giving was probably the Republican or the moderate argument, being like, we thought you were just going to be like this nice older man, this pretty moderate Democrat. You weren't going to be too radical. And then what did you do? You stopped the pipeline. You opened the border. Inflation, just all these radical ideals and all this radical legislation that's not getting passed. And by the way, it's being stopped mostly by the Democrats. There are Democrats that are opposed to it. That's why it's not being able to get through, because the Senate is 50-50. The Congress is Democrat. So if every Democrat is on board with this, it should be able to go through the Senate. But they're not, because it's not popular legislation. That is my freaking cat. Hold on a second. I need to let her in. Eva, come on. Now you have to say hi to everybody. Now, because she interrupted, she has to say hi to everybody. Oh, and Afghanistan. Yeah, Afghanistan, I think, turned a lot of... Just be on camera. Okay, she doesn't want to be on camera. Ow! Okay, we're good. She doesn't want to be on camera. She doesn't love the camera as much as I do. Afghanistan, yeah, everything that they've done. So he's basically getting it from both sides. Anywho, so Jen Psaki was on The View today, and they brought up to her, she's right there, but she's being very bitey and scratchy right now, so there's not much I can do about that. So it's brought up to Jen Psaki while she is on The View, and they bring up, you know what? A lot of people are very upset and they're very frustrated and they're very angry because you're not getting this legislation passed. And they were specifically referring to the voting rights bill, the freedom to vote bill, which was basically dead in the Senate because of Democrats. And you know what Psaki said? So they were saying, let's see if I can find the exact. Okay. Psaki, who joined the Friday broadcast of ABC's The View, had a list of suggestions for people who were sad or angry that the Senate had failed to pass two major Democratic driven election overhaul bills, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and the Freedom to Vote Act, which were blocked when Democratic Senators Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema refused to support any changes to the filibuster rule. So Psaki answered that question about what advice do you give to Americans that are really disappointed. And she said, my advice to everyone out there who's frustrated, sad, angry, pissed off, feel those emotions. Go to a kickboxing class, have a margarita, do whatever it is you need to do this weekend, and then wake up on Monday morning and we got to keep fighting. So that's coming from the White House. It basically sounds like your best friend Stephanie after you just went through a breakup and the advice that she would give you. And what really upsets me about this also is this is yet another major gaslighting effect of the Democratic Party, because what they did with these bills, the reason these bills did not, or the reason this legislation, these bills did not pass is because it's not good legislation. And it's very divisive and it's very partisan, and that's why those two Democrats were not on board. Yet they gaslighted the American public into thinking that this was a civil rights issue. So that's why people, you better not be at, oh my gosh, you're not even, I'm spraying you. She just got sprayed. Mama just sprayed her. But they gaslighted the American public into thinking that this was a big civil rights issue. So people got all emotional about this, rather than realizing that these are common sense things. What they were trying to do in these bills were federalize elections. They were trying to enable people to do mass mail-in voting, which creates huge holes. And then they also didn't want to require people to have voter ID, which most people think you should have voter ID. Most people think we shouldn't be doing mass mail-in voting all the times because that leaves you very, very vulnerable to fraud. Most people think that elections should not be federalized because that gives them more control up there. That's the whole point of the United States of America, is power to the people. And every fraudulent, and they called, no, Eva, you're being a stinker. Big stinker. If my cat weighed 15 more pounds, she would kill me. I know this and I respect this. So I call it, and a few other people call it, the voter suppression bill, because one fraudulent vote suppresses one non-fraudulent vote. So I don't like that. It's basically making it easier to not do the proper thing. But yeah, they gaslit people into thinking that this was a major civil rights issue, and they gaslit people into thinking that Republicans wanted to suppress votes. And now they're setting the stage for people to think that the 2022 midterms are going to be illegitimate. They're doing that because I think, in my opinion, my speculation, I think they are doing that because they realize that there is going to be a huge red wave. Why? Because Exhibit A, what I just showed you. This administration is deeply unpopular. Kamala Harris is deeply unpopular. Joe Biden is deeply unpopular. All of their legislation is deeply unpopular. That's why none of it passed. And now they're encouraging binge drinking. That was a joke, but love Eva spray. Yeah, I keep this. This is my weapon. My weapon of mass destruction. Yeah, and that's why they're freaking out, because they know they're setting up. In my opinion, okay, in my opinion, they're setting it up to get people to not trust. And if you know, it's just water. And basically, if you listen to that guy who was on CNN, the guy that used to work for Bush, that's what he was saying. He was like, "What? How is this? You guys everyone was bashing Trump so bad. Why? Because of Russia. Because I can't remember the other thing. Oh, polling numbers. Because of voter integrity. And now look at what you're doing. Everything that you blamed him for." The virus deaths, they're worse under Biden than they were under Trump. The whole Russia talk, it's worse under Biden than it was under Trump. And now you're setting people up to not trust the 2022 midterms because your voting bill didn't pass. How are you any better than Trump? And that's basically what that guy on CNN was saying. And I think that's totally valid. And you have them so desperate. Oh, and then you had Kamala Harris. Let's see if I can play cackling Kamala. Cackling, let me finish Kamala Harris. Let's see if this will play. Here we go.
Is it time?
It is time for us. Is you want to wear a tight-fitting mask. That is clear. And we want to urge
We're just
everybody
going to the
do
next
that.
question.
In terms of the N95 masks, they are available. There is a stockpile of, I believe, over 700 million.
I'm forcing you
of
to
those
do
masks.
this.
So the supply is there as necessary and as needed.
When I'm
At
waiting
what
for...
point does the administration say, you know what, this strategy isn't working? We're going to change strategies. 6 former administration officials last week wrote that open letter urging the administration to change course, to change strategy. Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day. Every day it is time for us to agree that there are things and tools that are available to us to slow this thing down. And so right now we know we still have a number of people that is in the millions of Americans who have not been vaccinated. And
See what they do there? You see what they do there? They always bring it back to the people. There are millions of people that haven't been poked yet, and this is why we're in this position. They deflect. Speaking of deflecting, oh, now you're being cute. Eva. And it was interesting, too, because Kamala Harris was actually interviewing with Susanna Guthrie. Is it ABC that Susanna Guthrie works for? Eva is picking some sweet tunes on the guitar. She's laying, like, right next to me on the floor like this. That's what she does. But Susanna Guthrie was... Oh, I watched it, yeah. NBC. Okay, so she works for NBC. Okay. I watched that interview, and Susanna, which I used to not like Susanna because of how she treated Donald Trump. I just thought that was so partisan and so hack of her. But she actually went hard on Kamala Harris, and I really appreciated that. She really pressed hard on Kamala, and that was a disastrous interview with Kamala Harris. And she said, and she brought up, she said, you know, Kamala, like this legislation didn't pass, and it didn't pass because of Democrats. Don't you think you should have compromised a little bit more when it's your own party that's blocking this legislation? Because the Senate is 50-50. You have the Congress. It should have passed if all the Democrats were on board. So shouldn't you have compromised a little bit more? And I really appreciated Susanna in that interview. She also really pressed on Ukraine and Russia, which I also appreciated. And they only have 50 votes. Exactly. So if you have Democrats that are not on board, and if you have Democrats in your own party that are saying, this is too partisan and our country is too divided right now, which is what Joe Manchin said about the bills, then something is wrong with your legislation. Then your legislation is too partisan and it is too divisive. And that's their fault. That's no one else's fault. They're going to sit there and try to blame everyone else, and they're going to sit there and pander, but it's their fault. And they tried to get rid of the filibuster, which when the Republicans owned the House, when the Republicans had the House and the Senate, how many times did they use that filibuster? Over 100 times they used the filibuster. So it's okay when they want to use it, but it's not okay when other people want to use it. Which, all right, it's politics, whatever. But when you're starting to get so desperate, you're using civil rights and you're getting in people's emotions, I really do not like that. That's basically the bottom of the barrel, in my opinion. When you're equating this with Martin Luther King and with the civil rights movement, that's really, really bottom of the barrel, disgusting, gross, and you are, in my opinion, in full desperation. I think they're in the Democratic we're looking at the Democratic death rattle, in my opinion. Freedom, exactly, right? Someone said, I remember my grandma saying we were in crazy times back in the 80s. I think we're in that right now. I think we are too. And you know what? Someone, it was somebody that I follow on Twitter. He said, is the news more fake now than it was back in the day, or are we just noticing it more now? And I think it's a little bit of both, to be honest with you. I think there was always an element of fake news, but I think now you have so many independent creators, and then you had someone like Donald Trump come in who is just a bull in the china shop. And he was like, what is this? What is this? What is this? And I think it shook all of them to their core. And you have to remember about Donald Trump. There were even, and I don't think it's necessarily Democrat versus Republican. I think it's establishment versus non-establishment, because Donald Trump, he had a lot of Republicans that really did not like him. If you want a good documentary to watch to really know what happened at the beginning of the Trump administration, The Plot Against the President, you can get it on Amazon. It's really good, and it really gives you an insight, and it really gives you an understanding to everything that Donald Trump was up against when he went in office. And I'm not saying this as a Donald Trump fanatic. I'm just saying this as a human who recognized that someone that was anti-establishment went into office and they lost their minds. They couldn't deal with that. They had to do anything and everything to get him out. And here's another opinion that I have. The more and more I think about this, the more and more I observe what's happening in this Biden administration right now, the more and more, I know all of you are going to hate the fact that I'm saying this, but hear me out. The more I think it's a blessing that Donald Trump did not get elected, even though I would have wanted him to get elected, even though I know our country would be in a better place as far as immigration, as far as jobs, as far as things like that. But I think that these people needed to see the other side go through this. They needed to see that this health emergency that we got in didn't get any better because the other side was in office. Jobs didn't get in. They needed to see what a disaster this was. Otherwise, they would have continued to pin everything on Trump, and it would have continued to divide. But I think people are starting to come together because they realize how bad this administration is. I was talking to a girl the other day. She's super liberal, and she goes, I'm really liberal, but I can't stand Joe Biden. And I've been looking at some of these polls and some of these case studies, and a lot of people that voted for Joe Biden are really disappointed. A lot of independents are really disappointed, and I think they needed to see what they voted for, which is really sad. I wish that wouldn't have happened. I wish they could have just had a brain. But I honestly think that. Because if Trump was still in office and we were still going through this pandemic, they would have continued to blame it all on him and all on Republicans. But now that the other side is in charge, they can't do that. And it's kind of making them see the truth a little bit, I think. They can't use him as the bad guy because he's not in charge. It's like the people move out of a state because of policies they voted for, and then they vote the same way in their new state. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people like that. Someone said they're still blaming him a lot, though. Yeah, but I think every day, it's like you chip away at it a little bit. I'll blame him for everything. But the more and more they do this, the more and more. So let's say I'm someone that at the beginning of the Biden administration, I'm just like, oh my gosh, thank God Biden is not in office. Like, thank God we got rid of this evil dictator, Donald Trump, right? And I'm like, Biden is the man. I'm so excited. And then a few months later, I'm like, okay, maybe Biden isn't totally the man. Maybe he's a little bit not the man. I'm still there for him. But I still hate Donald Trump. It's still all his fault. It chips away at that a little bit and a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. And I have faith that it's chipping away at people. Tiny bits. Tiny bits. Self-identified Republicans is larger now in the past 25 years. Yes, stop the stop the zombie. Yes, that is right. The Republican Party had more gains than it has had in 25 years. That is a huge sign. And can I just reiterate? You know this gibberish that I read from Joe Biden, the answer that he gave? So even if you are not totally cognitively there's some truths that will come out. Pay attention to what he said. I told you what, gosh, I wish I could find that. Hold on. World Economic Forum. Where is it? I didn't know we were going to talk about this, so I didn't pull it up. This is what happens. I always go off track. Or was it the World Health? No, it wasn't the World Health. Oh, maybe it was. Was it? Give me 1 second. Wait. World Health Organization elites. Stop it. Oh. Anyway, let me read you this part from, I can't find this clip for some reason. That's really bothering me. Eva? But anyway, it was a very big organization that was basically saying the regular people are starting to turn on the elites and they're starting not to trust us. They were literally calling themselves the elites and they were saying they're starting not to trust us. Okay? Listen to what Joe Biden said. In one part of what he was saying, he said, he was basically talking about the American people, and he said they are becoming much more informed on the motives of some. Did you hear what he said in that? In the middle of his gibberish, I think it was the word. Was it? Did you see that, Lance? Was it the World Economic Forum? They were talking about how they are the elites and there's this elite class in the world, and how people were becoming more aware of them and we're basically not trusting them anymore. So they were basically admitting that people are not trusting them anymore, which says what? The narrative is failing. So Biden, I know it sounds funny, but I always do think there's a little bit of truth in there. It just comes out a little jumbled. And he said, yeah, they're becoming much more informed on the motives of some of the political players. and some of the political parties, and I think that they are not going to be susceptible to believing some of the outlandish things that have been said. So that's a part of what he said. I mean, I know he was talking gibberish, but I always think there's a little bit of truth in the gibberish. There's a little bit of knowing in there. The idea that we can choose our own future is yeah, they don't like that. And they don't like you being smarter than them. Praise the Lord for giving Joe I do think there is a little bit of truth in there. Speaking of truth, so Gavin Newsom, we all saw, and this is a part of the narrative that is failing as well. And I think it's failing big time in California because things have gotten so bad, which is the one silver lining of things going so bad is the public starts to wake up. So he went and visited the train tracks. So we've been talking about Pacific Union, about the terrible things that are going on there, all the theft. No notification from YouTube again. Google needs to fix. I'm so sorry, TNN. I'm very sorry. It's a fake story. Red flags, hoax written all over this crap. Which story? Anyway, Gavin Newsom visited the train tracks, and this was his reaction. Yes, Chris, you had it right. Chris said it was another time when he slipped up and said a few things. I do. I think he some truths come out, and you have to really listen to it. It's like you really have to understand Bidenese, but the truth will find its way out, and it'll just like stick its little head out and say hello once in a blue moon. Okay, so the trains. So two things happened recently with the trains, and I think, in my opinion, in my speculative, little-brained opinion, I think it's in Bido Veritas. I think that the only reason they did this is because they had no choice. So Gascon, if you know, Pacific Union sent a letter to Gascon 2 months ago complaining about the crime and complaining about the people that they are arresting are not being prosecuted. Also, the images of the train tracks went viral and were on tons and tons of news stations. So I think because of that, Gascon had speculation. I can't see into his head. So they both did, and it was quite interesting. So Gavin Newsom goes in a t-shirt and a mask, and he's helping to clean up some of the boxes. He's putting boxes into trash, which I think is good. Okay, credit where credit's due. And he says, how do we make sure we don't have to keep coming back? How do we secure this site? How do we do a better job in making sure that this doesn't have to continue to happen? This is the supply chain. I know all of us are focused down on the water. It's so damn beautiful, and everyone's just focused on the containers at the ports. The supply chain. He said criminals know how to exploit California's... Oh, no, that wasn't Gavin Newsom. He wouldn't say anything that smart. Sorry. He added that the cars carrying cargo were a part of the supply chain. So this is what Gavin Newsom and George Gascon are doing now. They're blaming Union Pacific as a part of the problem. They say that they're not doing enough security and they're not doing enough to secure their cars. And that's one of the reasons why this is happening. Even though in the letter that Union Pacific sent Gascon 2 months ago, they said, we have security. We've spent $5 million extra on security. And when we are arresting people, they're being released within 24 hours and they're offending again. But Gascon did the same thing. It's the same playbook as Lori Lightfoot. It's blame the retailer or blame the victim for not having enough security. And you've done nothing wrong because crime isn't going up at all. Criminals know how to exploit California's policies for their gain. State Senate Republican leader Scott Wilk, whose district includes northern Los Angeles County, told the Associated Press. Also, Thursday, a group of House Republicans in Washington sent a letter to U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland calling for federal assistance in cracking down on thefts that have disrupted supply chain. Much of the garbage at the site Newsom visited represented Christmas gifts that were never delivered to their intended recipients because of thefts. In December, Newsom proposed the Real Public Safety Plan, which included steps for addressing rail thefts, Fox 11 reported. It also included $255 million in grants to help California communities combat so-called smash and grab thefts at retail stores. He claimed dozens of suspects have been arrested in the state connection with those crimes. 280 people have been arrested, but there should be more. They need to be held to account. And we need to go after these fencing operations. We need to go after back of this. But Newsom, who survived a recall effort last year, driven in large part by opposition to his coronavirus restrictions on businesses, has faced other critics who claim his efforts to combat crime have been flawed and ineffective. For example, Fresno County's district attorney earlier this week accused Newsom of being ignorant or a liar after the governor praised 3 crime-related state laws that were enacted while he served as lieutenant governor under fellow Democrat Jerry Brown. It's not deterring crime, it's not preventing it, DA Lisa Smitcap said about the Bryan-era laws. It's not doing anything to stop this, which is why it just keeps getting worse and worse, and we keep seeing more bold behaviors. We keep seeing more criminals who are empowered. This is true. This is the criticism that Gavin Newsom is getting. Number one, he endorsed George Gascon, who is the district attorney in Los Angeles, who is not prosecuting a lot of these crimes. Gavin Newsom also signed and endorsed a lot of these bills that had made it easier for criminals. And he keeps saying, and this is the trick on language that they'll do. They'll say, we're arresting these people. We're arresting these people. Okay, that's not the issue. The issue is after they're arresting these people, they're being let right back on the streets and they're not being prosecuted. And so they're going and just committing crimes again. So they're like, oh, I'll just get arrested, sit in jail for a few hours, and then I'll go and do the same thing again. It's all good. I don't have to show up to court. It's all good. Look at the person that was responsible for the death of Brianna Kupfer. He had 12 mugshots. Yeah, so there's no actual punishment. And that's the problem. And then when you say anything... Oh, and what they'll do to make it look like they're trying to combat the issue is they'll just throw more money at it. But where's the money going? The problem isn't in the money. The problem is in the prosecution. So, he went down there. He took some photo ops. We'll see what happens. I personally don't buy it. That's just my opinion. Has Joy Reid dressed? No, she hasn't. Hello? Let's hope our stagecoaches are safe. Yeah, so basically George Gascon responded in a letter, and the letter basically said that he doesn't, that crime is actually going down. That's what they always say. They'll say crime is actually going down. So don't believe what your eyes are telling you, people. Crime is going down. Your eyes are wrong. But they'll say the same thing. They'll say crime is actually going down and you're not doing enough to secure. So they're saying that they're not doing enough to secure their train cars. Or they're not doing enough to hire security, or they're not arresting people, and that's what they'll say. He's Soros funded. Yeah, a lot of them are. Oh. Tucker Carlson, I think, is going to be doing one of his little mini documentaries about Soros and Hungary because, hold on, let's look this up. Soros. Listen to this. So, and this is actually reported from Vox, which is a very lefty outlet. So, if they're saying this, I think it's true. Hungary just passed a Stop Soros law that makes it illegal to help undocumented migrants. If you want to know, this is probably going to be very biased, just so you know, while we're reading this out loud together, but we know what it really means. If you want to know where anti-immigrant right-wing populism can go if left unchecked, you should take a look at Hungary, which under the pretext of cracking down on illegal immigration, passed a bill that gives the Hungarian government extraordinary powers to jail its political opponents. This week, Hungary passed what the government dubbed as Stop Soros Law, named after Hungarian-American billionaire George Soros. So get this. Soros's own home country doesn't want him doing political business in that country. I wonder why. The primary aim of this legislation is to intimidate by means of criminal law those who fully legitimately assist asylum seekers or foreigners. No, that's not what it is. Not what it is. Yeah, so his own country doesn't want him being a part of politics in that country. I have a really good friend who's Hungarian. Oh, Tianan said Soros is banned in at least 6 countries now. Well, to me, I mean, I'm still learning a lot of things, but I feel like, you know, when I hear that he pumps so much money into these local elections, I just feel like that, tell me if I'm wrong, but whether you are on his political side or not, and it's not even about him specifically, it's about just this rule in general. I don't feel like anyone should be able to donate to local elections if you don't live in that jurisdiction. I mean, does that sound crazy? Like, to me, that's just common sense. Like, you're only allowed to vote in, you're only allowed to donate to this city council member or this DA or this mayor. You're only allowed to donate to their campaign if you live in that district. I don't get how someone that doesn't even live in that district can donate millions of dollars and influence an election. I don't understand how that's legal. I don't understand how that's okay. Am I wrong? I don't. You can donate to the DNC who then hand out the funds. See, I don't know. Soros is banned from there. He was, oh yeah. Oh, what did you say? Hold on. Fox News. I saw some of that. Let's look it up right now before I go, because I'm going to probably go in just a minute. So we're looking up, okay. So we're looking up Soros, Orange County DA, Fox News. Let's see what's happening. Fox News. Okay. Orange County, California, which is, I'm pretty sure right next to Los Angeles, is Republican. Okay, I didn't find that specific thing, but I did find a story. It says progressive prosecutors blasted as homicide numbers climb in Los Angeles and other left-wing cities. The policies of progressive district attorneys in Los Angeles and elsewhere around the world are failing their own communities, according to LA County prosecutor. After a home, yeah, we know that. When you say, here's a list of crimes I'm not going to prosecute, yeah, you're not a good DA, says Hatami, a longtime LA prosecutor. And you're not a good prosecutor. That should be the first thing you do when you become a DA. Yeah, and that's the thing. So basically how the justice system works is you have the district attorney's office, which prosecutes, and then you have the public defender's office. And that DA can be one of the most powerful pieces of the criminal justice system. And so you have the DA that's there for the criminal, that's there to defend the criminal. And then you have the prosecutor that is there to fight for the victim. And now you have these prosecutors who are acting like public defenders. So that's putting an imbalance in the justice system. And George Gascon, he's actually hiring public defenders for his office. And the first thing he did, I believe it was like the first 30 minutes he was in office, he gave this sweeping list of things we're not going to prosecute. And some of it, he did get so much backlash. He did have to walk back on some of it. So he did walk back on a little bit of it, but I still don't think it's enough. And you have these people that get elected into office that are so married to their ideology. Their main focus is not making the community better. Their main focus is their ideology or their future public image. How are people going to see me? I'm going to be this progressive hero. That's how they see themselves. Or they're so married to their ideology. And I've met people like this too. They're not politicians or anything like that, but they're just so married to their way of thinking and their ideology, they will completely ignore all the evidence like evidence can just smack them across the face 25 times, and they will completely ignore it and say that didn't happen. I've even had friends. I had a friend that lived I lived in West Hollywood and she lived in Los Feliz, which to get from West Hollywood to go to Los Feliz, you have to drive through Hollywood. So I would have to drive through Hollywood to get to her place. And I remember like driving, because I would live in my little like West Hollywood bubble, and then I would go to the beach, but that was on the west side. So I would like West Hollywood beach back, West Hollywood beach back. And then I would, venture to the east to go through Hollywood to go visit her. And she was super liberal. And I would be shocked at the amount of homeless people that I would see. And this was like a few years ago. This wasn't recent. But I remember like one day coming over to her apartment, I was like, oh my God, because there were just tents like all over the side of the road going through Hollywood and into her neighborhood. And I remember I got to her apartment one day and I was like, oh my gosh, like there's all these homeless people. Like that's so awful. And she's like, no, there weren't. She was literally telling me I didn't see all these homeless people. But that's how stuck on ideology some people could be. Or she was just trying to ignore it or trying to downplay it and didn't understand. It's very odd. Todd said, does anyone else see Hillary Clinton and Soros' daughter look alike? Bah. I didn't know he had a daughter. How old is he at this point? Yeah, but sometimes like super liberal people, like someone was saying earlier, they're going to move from their liberal state because they hate those liberal policies, but then they will move into a new state and they'll vote the same way. And it's because they're in denial. TNN, yes, she was in denial. She didn't want to admit it. It's just weird. I've talked to a lot of people like this, a lot of very liberal people like this. They'll just downplay things or they won't understand how serious it is. Yeah, and they're the authoritarians. He's 91 years old. Special case had cognitive dissonance, for sure. The dark-sided. Dark-sided. I think only good people should have money. Yeah, but you know what happens? I used to read a lot of Malcolm Gladwell, and I can't remember which book of his it was, but he explained something very well, and I've known people like this. A lot of people that have first generational wealth, so people that have grown up from nothing and have built something for themselves, I think those are often, not all the time, but I think those are really good people. People that came from, really modest means and that really worked hard and really made something of themselves because they worked hard at it. And then what happens is those people have kids. And they grew up poor, but their kids don't grow up poor. And I think that's a challenge. So then you maybe become rich or you become wealthy, or you very successful, and then you have kids, and your kids don't know what it's like to be poor. They grow up in this success. So how do you teach your kid to have the same type of character that you have when they grew up in all of this success? And I think I've talked about it before. I had an acting class with Gene Simmons' daughter. Her name is Sophie. She's very, very sweet, and she's just the nicest, coolest girl ever. And she, in my opinion, is just incredibly grounded. And I think something very cool that Gene Simmons did for her is when she was really young, she went to live in third world countries and she taught people how to start businesses. So she would live with a family and she would teach them how to start a business so they could earn money themselves and have an income for themselves. And I have a feeling that might have been one of the many things that he did to keep her grounded. But I think it has to be something that parents are very conscious of if you come from a lot of means to help your child be grounded. But it's not even people that are super wealthy. It's also, if you looked at the video that I did right before this live stream, it was about this millennial girl who just grew up super sheltered and with like a helicopter mom and just turned into someone that can't deal with any kind of conflict. Where's my cat? Where did she go? Oh, she's in my closet sleeping. Hello, Daniel. What time is it? She is a ghost cat. I know where she is. She's in the closet sleeping. Oh, here's funny. Gavin Newsom demands answers from whoever's in charge of California. That's the Babylon Bee. I love the Babylon Bee. No, the Babylon Bee just said, Gavin Newsom demands answers from whoever's in charge of California. Because he did. He went down to the train tracks and he was like, I want to know why this is happening. Who's responsible for this? Will you endorse the DA who's not prosecuting? You signed the bills that that enabled a lot of these criminals. Oh no. I did everything I planned on doing, so now we're just hanging out. Oh no. Okay, breaking. Arnold Schwarzenegger involved in a serious crash in Brentwood per LAPD. Woman driving the red Prius suffered minor injuries. Arnold unhurt. Okay, so how is it serious? I don't know how that's serious. Oh, yes, yes. Who just said that? Was that Zombie? Logo person. Meatloaf died. Oh, yeah, that's big news. Yes, actually, I would like a logo. I've been thinking about that. But I'm not qualified. Let me know. I'll do it for free if you give me credit. Yes, who is this? Will you email me? Hold on. Anyone can email me. I don't care if you know it. I'm going to put my email up right now. I'm going in my chat. I'm going to put my email up for you. And by the way, you guys, you can... I'm going in my chat. Oh, I can hear myself. Stop it. Stop it. By the way, anyone can email me. It's fine. I don't mind this being public. This is actually my public email. Would you mind emailing me? You can just say hi in the email and then I'll get back to you. And we can come up with something. I would love that. I was just thinking about that and I really appreciate it. I specialize in logo because I'm a tattoo artist and graffiti near LA and Melrose. Oh, you're in LA and Melrose. Okay, that's my email address right there. Wait a second. Okay, so... someone said Gabby Petito story is still going on. Well, it's a closed case now. They finally said, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And yeah, if you just say hi, I'll get back to you. That way I'll remember it. The Gabby Petito, it's closed now. They finally said that they have closed it for good. There was a confession by Brian Laundrie, who was her boyfriend, so he confessed as for being responsible for her death, which is very sad. But I think we all knew that. Yeah, but it's done. I think the only thing that will come out now, are if information comes out about his family knowing more than I think the only thing that will come out is his family knowing more than what they let on and maybe being a little more involved in helping him to get away than what they originally let on or led people to believe. Because I think the family acted pretty sus, if you ask me. From the very beginning, they were acting very strange. Not like I or anyone that I know would have acted in that situation. All right, you guys, I think I might head out for the night. I'll see you again. Let's do live. I've been trying to fix my screen, so I apologize for the quality of my lives. I am in the country, so I use my phone because I use the data for my phone. I would have turned my son in. I would have too, in a heartbeat. And you know what? My mama would have turned me in. So, absolutely. Thank you so much, you guys. So I'll be live Sunday night. I'll let you know what time. Your live streams are the best. Oh, thank you. Well, I hate that I have to have my camera something's been going on. I'm trying to fix things. I'm super in the country, so it's just very slow and very frustrating. But I want to make them better for you all. Anyway, check out Glenn Beck did the best, if not the best, George Soros. Oh, thank you, the shop. Absolutely. I will probably check that out right when I get off here. Okay, you guys, so he said check out Glenn Beck did a really good Soros exposing video. Absolutely. Is that a newer one or is that an older one? Or we could probably just search Glenn Beck, George Soros. All right. Thank you, everyone. That was really fun. I'm glad you came, enjoyed, and I hope everyone has a really good night. Is this new? Yeah, let's see. Is it new? I want the shop to answer. The shop, where are you? Later, everyone. Have a great night. Later, Lance. A simple few seconds, music, movie, audio, logo. Yeah, I would like that. I tried to do it on my own, but I don't think I have. I'm kind of artistic, but not that artistic. Older, but still relevant. Okay, it's older. So we'll search George Soros, Glenn Beck. It should pop up. Okay, good night, everyone. Have a really great night, and I'll see you later. Bye. Very good. I trust you. I'm sure it will be very good. I'm a fan of Glenn Beck. All right, bye, you all.